What's up, guys? The Explorer of, I don't know if you guys got that or not, but the Explorer of Horror here, Horrorboy465, aka Nate Murphy. Welcome back to some more reviews. I was trying to do a dramatic director's countdown to the cameras to roll, but I supremely failed. But welcome back to some more videos, guys. And today we're getting to a live stream. Today I'm having Steve join the live stream. Welcome, Steve.
Thank you, Nate. Thank you so much. Rock on. As always, I am going to be drinking something, and tonight my drink of choice, because I never had it before, was Diet Coke Feisty Cherry. Let's see how this turns out. Let's see how this turns out.
Never even heard of that. Dun 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 dun. The seal of approval by Steve.
That was actually really good. That was pretty good. For Diet Coke, it's really good.
Wow. I've never even heard of that. Where'd you find that at?
Found it at a Gulf station, man. Just driving around, and I was like, I need something to drink on the live stream. So, lo and behold, there you go.
Well, heck. Now we got some Diet Coke sponsors. Thanks, Steve. Well, I'm just drinking straight up tea, guys. Sweet tea for me. I don't remember the brand, but it's sweet tea. It's Kroger's. Find it. And today, me and Steve are going to be talking about some top 5 lists for us. One of these lists I probably won't be talking about too much. It was the top favorites one because I've already done a freaking however long video on that. And but there's other ones that we're going to be doing on here, so you guys will be seeing different opinions on different films in these lists. I just kind of thought about the idea off the top of my head, and yeah. So to begin this broadcast off, we're going to be talking about our top 5 underrated horror films. And Steve, if you want to go first, you can. Totally up to you.
Okay, so we both have some duplications. I'll leave the one that we had a duplication for you to talk about, or for you to at least present, and then I can also talk about it. But I replaced it with another one. So I've got them numbered 5 to 1. I don't know if I have all of these over here with me, but my first one, number 5, is one of my favorite Black Sheep horror sequels, and you know I'm a big fan of those. It's a Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2.
Oh, heck yeah.
Nobody seems to like Part 2 because of all the gayness and all the other stuff going on in there. But I think it's actually a really well done, really dark sequel. And next to Part 3, I'd say it's probably my favorite Nightmare on Elm Street sequel. So there you go. Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2. Do you have feelings on Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2, Nate?
Oh, dude, I love Part 2. I think that movie is criminally underrated. I honestly, when I first seen it, and I didn't really know the movie got any hate. I knew that it was a little weird. There were some scenes that kind of got me. I was like, the towel scene and the other scenes, some of that stuff kind of got me. The dancing scene kind of really got me. I'm like, okay, what's wrong with this guy? But when I was watching the movie, that stuff really didn't matter to me. It kind of like what Matt said in his review, aka Remember After Life. It kind of made the movie different because it's you don't ever get a gay kind of undertone with the film, and that it's really, it makes it awkward at times when you're watching it. You're kind of at least at first. Other times it makes it more of a different experience. So it's at least you can look at it in that way. It's definitely a more different kind of sequel, and I think that. Also, it has so much else to it. It has great special effects. It has scenes that I think are iconic to the franchise. For me, the bus opening scene is iconic. I love the transformation scene where Jesse turns into Freddy Krueger. I love the ending, the party scene, that stuff to me, and the shot of Freddy going, "You are all my children." That stuff is all iconic for me. I can remember that stuff, and I think that Jesse's a likable character. You really feel bad for this guy. I mean, you could say that maybe really, if you think about it, there's not that many male leads in a Nightmare on Elm Street films. And you know, it was different. It was definitely one of the more different films in the series, but I've always loved it. I've always never really understood the hate for it. Yeah, it's got the gay undertone, but it makes it different, and also it's still got a lot of great stuff to it. You know, definitely one. It's also got a creepy look for Freddy. I've always thought that look for Freddy was creepy. Yeah, I love part two.
Oh yeah, it's really I think a pretty cool movie, and it's one of those movies you can get multiple messages, because if you're pro gay marriage, then you can see that, oh, he's struggling with his sexuality. He might ultimately end up being gay in the end. If you're not, you can see it as, well, he's struggling with his homosexuality. He's probably homosexual, and then he ends up with a girl at the end, and we don't know what happens after that. It's it's open to multiple interpretations, and there's a lot of just, besides that surface level stuff, because it is like, it's not even a subtext, it's surface level. Um, Besides that, you've just got, like, I think a lot of pretty good acting,
Mhm.
a lot of witty dialogue, and tons of just really good, like, creepy scenes. And people, for some reason, just don't get it, but a lot of people don't get great stuff. So, moving on to my number 4 on the list, and these aren't really ranked in terms of like favorites, although number 1, I will say, I think is probably the most underrated.
That's
This
how I'm
is
doing mine too. I'm not really having it ranked from least to favorite.
this is
Sorry.
this has gotten a lot more support over the years, but I'm gonna include it just because it was, you know, for the longest time ousted as a bad Black Sheep horror sequel, and that's Halloween 3: Season of the Witch.
Oh, dude, I love that movie.
Me too. So great. You've got Tom Atkins being a pimp. You've got um, you've got like these killer masks. You got great designs. Actually, like some pretty blood curdling effects sometimes. You know, when the lady gets shot in the face by that creepy mask thing.
Yeah,
I mean,
definitely.
that's great. You got some really good kills in there. You got some interesting like subtext talking about consumerism and the sort of over the top marketing going on. And I think one of John Carpenter and Alan Howarth's best scores that they
Oh
did
yeah.
together. Really, really good score to a movie. So that's my opinions on Halloween 3. What about you, Nate?
Oh, dude, like it's another sequel that, you know, it's kind of weird that I didn't even really even approach Halloween 3, and probably should have, but you know, Halloween 3 is just one of my favorite, really just favorite movies to watch during Halloween season. Um, it's got like a perfect atmosphere to it that I've always liked. I've always thought it kind of had that dark look to it. Um, Tom Atkins is great. I'm a huge fan of Tom Atkins, so in the movie he did a great job. Um, and the movie, I think, is just like the thing that I kind of get really mad with certain people, and like I get it, it's personal opinion on the film, but every time I've discussed with this movie with people, it's if people don't like it and they hate it and they absolutely just dislike it, the only reason that I get usually is that Michael Myers isn't in it. But the thing that always confused me was that it was never meant to be a Michael Myers movie. I think that if you would have taken out the Halloween part, it would have been one of the, you know, most accepted horror films probably from the 80s. But the sad fact is that there's a Halloween title in there and there's a part 3 in there. People think it's Michael Myers. They watch it and they get disappointed. And it was kind of like sort of the one that was shoot away from the series, like the one that's sort of off in the corner. But I've always loved Halloween 3, even as a kid when I seen it. And that's the thing I never got, is that I was like at least 12 to 13 my first seeing Halloween 3. And I even then I knew that it was not Michael Myers. And you know, that's the thing, like if I knew when I was that young that it wasn't Michael Myers, then how does all these like other people not know? I'm like, it was not meant to be a Michael Myers. But you know, besides that, I mean, it's just got everything that you could love from a horror film. It's why I never got the hate. That's the only reason why I've heard that people don't like it. And personally, I disagree. I just don't think that's a legitimate enough reason for me to hate a movie. If it's well made, it's well filmed, and it's well acted, and it keeps you engaged, that's a good movie. It's not just like I look at a movie, I'm like, oh yeah, I hate it because of the title. I hate it. It's everything else is great, but I hate it because of that title. It's like it is what it is. I love the movie for what it is, and yeah, it shouldn't be called Halloween 3, but it is what it is, and I love it. So I love Halloween 3.
Oh yeah, rockin' movie. My number 3 is a movie that I don't think many people talk about. I've heard, as far as like vocal critics, people who actually do talk about this movie. Martin Scorsese cites it as one of the scariest movies ever made, and Peter Laws from over at the Flicks That Church Forgot cites this as probably his favorite ghost story. There are a few other places that give it some really good credence, but not a whole lot. That is The Changeling, starring George C. Scott. Really, really creepy movie with a ton of emotion behind it, a lot of really good cinematography. The sound design is great here. Really good score by, I think it's, I forgot the name. Well, it doesn't really matter, but directed and written by a guy named Peter Madoc, or at least I think it's not written by Peter Madoc, but directed by Peter Madoc, based on somewhat of a true story. Really creepy stuff. This is a pretty low quality DVD, and it's the only way you can own the movie. You might be able to get an overseas Blu-ray, but I think it's out of print and goes for pretty big amounts. And you'd only be able to play it if you had region free in the United States anyway. But The Changeling is a really, really cool movie. And I say, if you have the chance to pick this up and watch it, give it a try. It's worth a watch, and worth, I think, multiple watches, just because of how creepy it is, how much suspense is put into it, and I think the really, really heartbreaking story that's in it, centering around somewhat of a loss of faith and a loss of and the loss of a family. So it's really interesting.
Yeah, I've never heard of, I mean, I've heard of it, but I've never seen it. So I'm going to say, never seen the movie, but I've heard a lot of good things about it. I've heard from many people that's underrated, so that's definitely one of my watch lists.
Oh yeah, it's worth it. Oh, I guess I didn't bring over one of the movies that I had. But in any case, my number 2 is a movie called Spider Baby.
Whoa.
And Spider Baby is a crazy freaking movie that did influence the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and I think to a degree, Silence of the Lambs. It has to do with a crazy family way back in the way back in the woods. Well, I guess not too far back in the woods, but a crazy family where Lon Chaney Jr. is their caretaker. The parents are dead, and it's 3 psychopathic children. One of them is just
Wow.
slow. One of them is just slow, but the other 2 are these really sexually promiscuous, like 16 and 17-year-olds that are, somewhat sexually repressed and take out their sexuality on these people that wander into their home trying to get money.
Wow.
It's got some really cool stuff in there, some good cinematography, some good writing. But the real star of the show, of course, is Lon Chaney. Lon Chaney Jr., that is. Does a great job. It's a heartbreaking performance because you understand that he loves these children despite the fact that they do bad things. And you see a kind of and a compulsion towards faithfulness to this family. It's really interesting. It's got kind of a downbeat, creepy ending. Starts out seeming like it's a happy ending, and then you see, oh wait, no. It leaves it wide open for a sequel, but I hope they never make one because this movie is too perfect as it is. Really, really good movie, and I'd say if you have a chance to check it out, give it a try. For some reason, I didn't bring it over here, but I have the Arrow Blu-ray of it, and it's fantastic. So
Wow.
I'd say give it a try.
Well, dang. I definitely got to check that one out. I didn't even know about that one. Dang. Some good picks. So you said it was it influenced Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So was it before it?
Yeah, this is I think it was made in 1962, a couple years after Psycho, during the big sort of Psycho boom. You know, there were a ton of serial killer movies
Yeah. They tried
coming
to up
out.
the ante on everyone tried to up the ante
Yeah,
because Psycho did.
yeah, and what it was a very low budget attempt at making a sort of family centered horror movie, um, directed by Jack something, I can't, Jack Hill, director of The Wasp Woman and partial director of Bloodbath and I think The Terror. Um, uh, really, really good director. But Spider Baby um, it was made in 1962. I think it didn't come out until 1967 because of some either rights issues or some issues about, oh, should we show this in theaters, because it is, you know, for its time pretty graphic. They show a guy's ear getting chopped off, and um, they show a lot of like sexual promiscuity without showing nudity. Um, it's got a lot of tension in it, especially like sexual tension and some tension
Wow.
based on some like really deep psychological issues, and you know, at the same time balances it out with a really healthy level of comedy and a
Mm.
really really healthy helping
Uh,
of cheesiness, because there is I have to admit a lot of cheesiness in here, but it's worth it to kind of slog through the cheese to get to, you know, sort of this wonderful creamy center. It's really really good.
it sounds amazing, man. I never even heard about this film. I gotta
It
see it.
it might be public domain because the first time I saw it was on YouTube, but I don't know if it's on there anymore or not. So
You're gonna be disappointed though. Oh no, Steve. They got a remake of it.
well, I'm gonna fall down and die.
2007.
Well, I
2007. Wow.
I did not see that, and I'm not going to see that because Spider Baby is too perfect as it is.
I can't believe they remade it. It's like well, it's like a film called It's Alive. I didn't even know that got a remake until I just stumbled upon it. I'm like, that got a remake? Why? Like, why?
That's another underrated one that I haven't seen, but Scream Factory recently put out a Blu-ray box set of those three movies, and I'd really like to check it out because I want to see It's Alive.
The first two are pretty good. I have a certain opinion on part three. I don't really care for it too much, but I think the first two are solid. Definitely
Cool.
solid. Um, yeah.
So, okay, I'm gonna go to my number one, and I do not own it on DVD or Blu-ray. This is one that I heard about when I was listening to a commentary Tom Atkins did, I think either over The Fog or Halloween 3. And he was talking about this movie and how like the experience of making it was so freaking horrible because they had to go over to I think it was like Bulgaria, and like nobody spoke English. A lot of people caught the flu. Everybody
Man.
was drunk on set except for the director. And this was like the first film the director ever made. it's from the writer of The Exorcist made this as sort of a spiritual sequel to The Exorcist. Came out in 1980. It's called The Ninth Configuration. And it's not necessarily a horror movie, but it's often categorized in horror because of its sort of surreal nature. It's got this really strange feeling around it, and it's got this sort of feeling of a haunted house movie without actually being a haunted house movie. It's more about haunted people. It's about this group of Vietnam veterans that are all suffering from horrible PTSD, or they're just straight up crazy, and they're in a mental institution. And one of the really interesting and funny things that they do, because it's a combination between this really tense, kind of weird, offbeat religious drama combined with weird, offbeat religious humor. And one of the interesting things that they do is they try to put on a production of Hamlet where all of the actors are dogs. And it's really surreal and really funny. And you also combine that with this idea that, the dogs are supposed to represent, kind of this parody of what Shakespeare was going for. He was trying to get at what makes a man. Well, this is kind of like what makes a dog, and what is a dog's station in life and all this stuff. But it's really intellectual. Not a lot of people will like it because I hear of a lot of people watching it and just being like, this is pure trash. I don't know what I'm watching. This is stupid. To me, I think it's a really good movie. I think it's worth a watch, and it's creeping up into my favorite movies list just because I watched it once, and it's just, I don't know, it's over the top really good.
Wow. I've heard the title. Never really heard about the movie before, but it sounds interesting. I'll definitely check it out. As you're saying these, I'm like putting these on my watch list on eBay so that maybe one day I can pick them up.
Well, so if you want to watch The Ninth Configuration, you might sign up for a free month on Shudder, the horror streaming app, if you can swing that, or swing $5 to do it once and then cancel. I mean, it's worth it just for that, I think.
All right. Yeah, I've always wanted to check out Shudder. Looks pretty cool.
Yeah.
So that's your top 5 underrated horror films.
That is. And I guess we can move on to yours.
All right. Well, guys, moving on to my top 5 underrated horror films. Steve's kind of blew it out of the water, so it's kind of, he had some good movies on that list. But again, with mine, it's not really any ranking system. These are just 5 that I kind of just chose out of my collection, or just movies that I don't even own yet, just movies that I've seen. And these are some of them that I was able to pick. And not ranked, so these are just all kind of the same for me. Number 5 is Day of the Dead. Now, I know a lot of people are saying that Day of the Dead is known as a cult classic, so why are you putting on this list? Well, it's because Day of the Dead, even though Dawn of the Dead is my favorite, and it's like a lot of people's favorite, I still love Day of the Dead a lot. And I've always found it underrated because a lot of people don't usually talk about Day of the Dead. It's usually Night of the Living Dead or Dawn of the Dead, and it's like, oh, those movies are amazing. And if I bring up Day of the Dead, people are kind of like, yeah, it's okay. It's like this. It's the 3rd movie. It's Day of the Dead. It's not. And I'm just like, wow, because like I love Day of the Dead. I understand that George Romero had some issues where he wanted to do something else, but the studio was like, we don't have that much money, so you're gonna have to do what you can with the budget you have. And when you give George Romero an assignment like that, he was a master of just using a low budget and making his movies look so beyond the budget. Like, that's one of the things I love George Romero. One of the things I love about George Romero is that he's able to take a small budget and just run wild with it. And you watch Dawn of the Dead and you watch Night of the Living Dead. These movies are epic movies where you don't see like a small budget. You see an epic, just masterpiece of films, and you don't really know that it was only like 700 or 800,000. There wasn't really that much money to it, and I definitely think that Day of the Dead is the most underrated one out of the trilogy because like I said, a lot of people don't talk about it. If they do, they say it's their third. It's the third favorite. It's not really their first favorite, and I guess I'm kind of a hypocrite because for me it goes dawn, night, then day. But I still love Day. It's still one of those movies that I can watch all the time. I love the score. I love the atmosphere. I love the look of the zombies in the movie. They did a lot of creative zombies in this film that I really liked. The gore effects are fantastic. And I've always found the characters and the acting interesting. That's one thing I've heard about is that people really weren't interested in the story. They weren't really interested in the characters. And I thought the characters in the story were just very well done. How you're seeing how, humans are trying to take control of what's going on, the situations going on with the zombies being taking over the world. And it's like, these certain people let power go to their heads. And it's like, I love that part of the story. I love how there's just this scientist who's trying to do the right thing, trying to look out for everybody and kind of fighting the system, but also fighting the zombies that end up invading the underground sort of area. I love a lot about it, and I could ramble on forever about it. I don't really mean to, but it's such a great movie that I absolutely adore. Love Day of the Dead.
Great pick. Day of the Dead's actually my favorite out of the Dead trilogy, and from what I hear, it was George Romero's actual his favorite. I think mostly just because he was always a champion of lost causes, and Day of the Dead kind of was a lost cause for him. Like you said, he wanted to do so much more with it. He wanted to expand it out and make this even more epic version of Dawn of the Dead. And with $1 million or something like that, he makes this movie that's like epic in its own way because of the really big sound of the score. I love the score to that movie. It's so off the wall because it's like bongo driven and kind of influenced by reggae and stuff like that, but also synthesizer heavy.
Very unique.
Oh yeah, and you mix that with this dark, foreboding underground bunker, really cool stuff. And then mix that with probably the best gore effects, maybe of all time. Just straight up gore effects, maybe not creature effects, but straight up gore effects, probably the greatest of all time. Really, really good work by Tom Savini and the guys that would turn into KNB. Really, really cool stuff.
Yeah. Real quick, what was your favorite zombie mutilation part in the film? Because there's a lot of them, a lot of great ones, but which one was your favorite makeup effect?
One of my favorite things, I think, is when the one that makes me cringe and freaks me out the most is when they take the guy that's laughing all the time and tear him apart, and they stretch his head and tear his head off, and you can just hear him still laughing, and it just gets higher and higher and higher.
Yeah.
His vocal cords are just pulled out.
That one's brutal. I've always loved the one, I can never remember his name, but it's like the lieutenant guy, and he gets ripped apart, and he's like, choke on him. I just love that scene. It's a great scene. Iconic movie. Yeah, Day of the Dead is so underrated. Even though I'm kind of a hypocrite because, Dawn of the Dead is, technically speaking, my favorite, and Night is my second favorite. I just don't shun Day of the Dead. That's the thing I don't get is that people shun it like it's some sort of bad movie. I'm like, it's not a bad movie. It's just not, it wasn't Dawn of the Dead. I think it's the thing that people were most disappointed with is that it wasn't Dawn of the Dead. It was a different kind of movie. You're taking the beginning movie of the series where it's more of a traditional kind of approach to a zombie movie. Dawn of the Dead is taking a comic book movie and just exploding it with gore, great atmosphere, and all that crazy action, and just that stuff that makes Dawn of the Dead so unique. Day of the Dead is kind of like it focuses more on story and characters, and it focuses on the build up and just different things that Dawn of the Dead didn't focus on. But I'm gonna stop rambling. So sorry, Steve. I can't talk enough about Day of the Dead. Moving on to number 4, though. Sorry, guys. Number 4 is a film that I really didn't expect to make it on this list because it's one that, while going over my movies, I was kind of like skimming over, and I was kind of running out of that one last pick that I needed for the list. And I found this movie. I'm like, heck yeah, this is an underrated film. That's the Blair Witch Project from 1999. Now, this movie, I feel, is, of course, it has, its problems. Um, you have, for me at least, a very creepy ending, but it's one that kind of left me where I was wanting to know like more. I was like, okay, what happens? Why? Because I guess it was because growing up, found footage movies were just so common that it was kind of like the ending for every found footage movie. But when I seen it in Blair Witch, it was just like, even though that's maybe the one problem that I have, it's still got a haunting ending. Whether you like the way it ends or not, it's still haunting. Um, for me, this is really strong in acting and performance because you can never really tell these people are acting. It's like you're really, and when I was a kid, I thought this was real. Like my dad was playing around with me. He's like, "Oh yeah, it's a real story." I'm like, "Oh crap," and it's like, "No, I'm just playing with you. It's a movie." I'm like, "Oh okay," because I thought it was real. I was watching it. It's legit looking. There's nothing about this movie that makes you think, oh, it's a fake movie. Oh, there's a witch. Ah, it's fake. It's like, no, you're really watching like, man, this could be something that could really have happened, whether it was a witch, whether it was backwoods, you could say, cannibals or whatever. It could be anything. That's what I love about this movie is that they don't give you a straight up answer. It's like you kind of guess. You're like, okay, was it a witch? Did they get lost? Did they go crazy? What happened? And I love that. I love the acting, love the characters. 3 characters are great. The stick figures in the woods, that was probably the creepiest part besides the kids, the screaming children scene. But it was the part where they found all the figures in the trees. And I just thought that the way that logo kind of became the logo of the series looks, it just looks creepy. And especially how they're just like, we don't know how this got out here. We don't know how this got out here and how we found it. And and I just thought that it was a great scene. Also, the scene where their tent is being attacked by these children. It was like just creepy and eerie, and the whole movie had this great look to it. Especially in the night sequences. And I don't know. It's a great movie. I think it's underrated. I think it gets way too much hate because people just say, "Oh, it's people running around in the woods, hearing rocks and stuff like that, and finding sticks." It's like it's more than that. When you watch it, you're really seeing these characters go through stuff, and that's what I really enjoy about the movie. But yeah, number 4 for me is the Blair Witch Project. It's highly underrated, and I really enjoy it.
I would agree with you there. I think it's a really, really good movie, and I think probably it's the masterpiece of found footage. Despite the fact that I do like the first um, uh, Paranormal Activity movie, I think it was actually a relatively good movie, and maybe even the
Yeah.
second one is. I don't know, but I think probably if you were to look at what the great found footage movies are, probably Blair Witch is that. It's probably Blair Witch, and it's maybe the best mockumentary movie as well. Um, they also had a mockumentary that accompanied accompanied it like before the movie came out. They aired this fake documentary about it on Sci-Fi that made everybody think it was real and stuff. And it's a really creepy documentary. Got some really interesting stuff in there. Um, it's definitely worth a watch if you get the DVD. It's because it's on the DVD. It's really cool stuff. Um, if you can say one thing for Blair Witch, it's that it mounted probably the greatest marketing campaign of any low budget film of all time. It's also, I think, maybe not still considered, but for the longest time, it was the highest grossing independent film of all time. It's influential and in many ways, and it does have some legitimate creepiness to it. I haven't seen it in a while, but I'd love to go back and revisit it. So I'm glad you brought this up because it's not one that I immediately go to as like
underrated, but I think because of how diluted that genre has become,
Mm.
we've turned it into a kind of underrated movie.
Yeah, like the only other found footage movie that I thought kind of was on the level of this is actually a movie that Steve had, or not Steve, but yeah, you're Steve, but Matt Rambo After Life had talked about, called Tunnel, and also As Above, So Below. Those two movies are just really great. I would say that those are probably on the level with Blair Witch, if not in some ways better. I'm a huge fan of those movies, but um, I've always wanted to see one called Chernobyl Diaries, but I've also heard it's not a found footage movie. It's actually a regular film. I think it was just marketed as a found footage movie, and it's also just the way that it's shot. It makes you think it's a found footage movie, but it's actually not. So I don't know. I've never seen it, but I want to check it out.
Well, I can give you that a little bit insight there because I watched it once. I think it was just a TV cut, so I mean I'll take that with a grain of salt. But I didn't like it too much, but I thought it was okay. And from what I remember, it's like partially a found footage movie and partially not. But I might be wrong about that. I can't remember. I think there was some type of like Leslie Vernon type of thing going on. So
I'll tell you what's a fun one to watch. It's called Frankenstein's Army. Have you seen it?
no, but I used to see the Blu-ray for sale like all the time.
Honestly, it's a pretty good low budget movie. I thought it was pretty good, at least for being a found footage movie. It was pretty fun concept. There's a couple problems with it that make it kind of like it's a. If I were to do a review on it, I would say it was just okay. But honestly, it does do some pretty good stuff with it. It's a fun little movie. I definitely recommend it.
Cool.
The next movie is another found footage movie. It's called Grave Encounters. I remember when I first seen this, I was on Netflix. I was just cruising through the movies, and I kept on seeing Grave Encounters, and I was like, "Why do I keep seeing this movie? I'll give it a watch." But it looks like it's going to be a typical kind of horror film. And really, from the outside, you look at it, it kind of is. It has jump scares, has the ghosts kind of show their form, and they're all bloody demon type stuff. So you would think that it would just be a throwaway horror film. But I think what makes it unique is that it's done very, very well. That makes it to where I think it's honestly the most underrated found footage movie, even more than Blair Witch, because Blair Witch still had that notoriety, but Grave Encounters really didn't sort of get notoriety until people started really checking it out. And then it got a sequel. I don't care about the sequel. The sequel sucked, but the first movie is, I think it's very unique, and it separates itself because you actually have legitimately scary scenes. You don't get a lot of scary scenes in like a lot of these found footage movies anymore. They're just trying to go for just jump scares everywhere and a bah kind of boo ending for the movie. But this one played it out different. It's about the atmosphere. It's about the idea of not being able to escape a place. Even if you're trying your hardest, you can't escape this asylum. So they just made this asylum itself just creepy. I think it may have been a real asylum they were shooting on as well, but they at the beginning of the movie they gave the lore to the story, and it was just brilliant because it added that extra scariness factor to it, because that there's been bad history here at one point in time. The characters, I think, are very realistic. They're acted very well. Yeah, some of them make stupid decisions, but I can look past that, especially when the atmosphere is this creepy and this dark, and it's just a very creepy. Where if you would put yourself in the character's place, it's like, what would you do? It's like you can't escape this asylum. The doors that are supposed to be the exit lead you to another hallway. The windows are barred. You can't escape this dirty, old, nasty asylum with ghosts in it that literally kill people. It's like, it's a great movie. And it's like, I think it's so underrated because it got a sequel. It got its hype at the time, but now the hype has kind of died down. You don't really hear people talk about this movie. And I can watch this movie anytime. And somehow I can find a DVD of Grave Encounters 2 easily. I still can't find a DVD of Grave Encounters 1, which is bullcrap. But I think it's still on Netflix, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, it's an underrated one, definitely. It's definitely one of my favorites. Probably, honestly, if I thought about it, it's probably my favorite found footage movie, honestly, because I think that it does what Blair Witch did, but it also added a little bit more to it. And like, I just think it's such an underrated film. Grave Encounters, number 3.
Cool. I haven't seen Grave Encounters. I know it actually has Grave Encounters 2 and Grave Encounters 3.
There's a 3?
Yeah, apparently there's a third one. But yeah, and I think it's still on Netflix, so I'll have to check it out.
It's pretty good. It's the second one tried. I felt it tried, but it's got its own things. I do like the aspect of the second movie is actually about movie reviewers. That's a pretty cool thing. About filmmakers and stuff like that. I like that aspect, but yeah, part 2 was a mess for me.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2 for me is probably a shocker for most. And a lot of people wouldn't have this on their lists, and that is Dracula 2000. Yes, this is a very underrated film for me. This is a movie that literally, if you look at it, it's probably, what do they call it? Product placement. One of the biggest product placement movies you could really see, because I can't really tell you how many t-shirt logos they had to put in a freaking scene, like obvious in a scene, or a sign, or maybe when people are eating or drinking, product placement that's blatant.
Yeah.
Diet Coke.
What's that?
I said I was playing with you. I said Diet Coke. I was thinking that you were playing off of that with Diet Coke.
I didn't even think of it. I just got thirsty. By the way, really quick, guys, if you do decide to get one of these, remember, because I'm just starting to realize this, it's a little bit spicy. It's kind of a strange thing to say for soda, but it's a little bit spicy. So if you like spicy things, you might like it. I'm finding it a little weird, but it's still all right. Continue. I'm sorry.
It's okay. Spicy, but yeah, Dracula 2000, like, it does have that. It does have where it places in cast because of their previous work. You had a lot of the lead characters from previous, whether it was music, whether it was TV shows, but that still doesn't really make it a bad movie for me. I mean, yeah, it's obvious. It's when you're looking at it, you're like, okay, this is, it should have been a mediocre horror film. For most it is. But for me, the reason that I've always loved it is how fun the movie is and how, I think, creepy how creepy Gerard Butler is as Dracula. I think he plays a great Dracula. I think he has lines that you can remember. There's scenes that I think that Gerard Butler's in that I think are really good. And I like the characters. I like the story, I like the actors. It has blood, had traditional Dracula stuff. It had a lot of things that would make it a good Dracula movie. I just think that I see where the problems are, with the obvious marketing, with the obvious just making it have as much star power as it can. But it's still a bloody fun time. I think it's a great vampire movie. It's a fun blast, and it never gets talked about. I know it got sequels, which, if you guys hate this movie, see the sequels. They're worse. They'll make you love the first movie. I've seen the sequels. They're horrible. But this movie, I think, is very fun. It's got a great Dracula, in my opinion. But I know people out there are probably laughing. But, Gerard Butler did what he could with the role, and he did a great job. I just thought that it was a good kind of modern tale of Dracula, kind of taking the original Dracula storyline, kind of implementing it in the early 2000s type stuff, the style of clothes, the music. I loved all that. I'm a big fan of the 2000s era. Kind of had that sort of, is it called neo slasher film? Like neo kind of horror film look to it.
Yeah, I was actually, when we were gonna go over to my comments, what I was gonna touch on is that, like,
it has that sort of feeling, and I think sort of the ethos of a neo slasher, where it's trying to look back at what was popular about Dracula originally, try to recreate that, but also say, you know what, we have we also have some some new stuff to offer. Um, and I don't love the movie. I'll be honest, I don't love it, but like I don't really see it, all the hate for it, because I think that it's like just a fun movie.
Yeah.
It's got some good visual style to it. It's again, it's Jerry Butler, and Gerard Butler's pretty good as a Dracula, and I mean, he's not as good as a lot of other people have been as Dracula, but he's not as
Yeah,
bad
like
as a lot of
Gary Oldman, and of course, crap. I feel so stupid. I forgot his name.
Bela
Uh,
Lugosi.
Bela Lugosi. I'm so sorry. Yeah, Bela
Yeah,
Lugosi
and then
and Gary Oldman
Christopher Lee
and
as well.
Christopher Lee.
And
Hands down, better Draculas.
I'm gonna go ahead and say this though. I like Dracula 2000 better than I like Gary Oldman's Dracula.
Oh wow.
And it's not because I think that Gary Oldman is a better Dracula, but he's in a crappier movie. I think that Gary Oldman's Dracula, like as a character, is really good because Gary Oldman's freaking awesome, and you can never say anything bad about Gary Oldman except for the fact that he can be a jerk at times, but most of the time he's just a really great actor and a really cool dude. You can actually say mostly the same thing for Gerard Butler. And I don't think Gerard Butler's performance is as good as Gary Oldman's. I think that Dracula 2000, it just, in my opinion, is a better movie than Bram Stoker's Dracula. By the way, I'm sorry I'm taking your time and taking it off on my own tangent. This is not Bram Stoker's Dracula. This is Francis Ford Coppola's Dracula. Bram Stoker didn't envision any type of frickin' romance in his novel. Dracula was a douche, okay? Dracula just wanted to kill people. Dracula didn't love anybody. Dracula didn't have some type of cosmic love that he wanted to impart on these women. He wanted to feed, and that's all he wanted to do. And that might seem one-dimensional. It's not. There's a lot more evil to go on with it. There doesn't have to be a love story. And I guess I'm going to end it there. I hate that movie deeply, despite the fact that I think that Gary Oldman's a great Dracula and Anthony Hopkins is an awesome Professor Van Helsing. But you've also got frickin' Keanu Reeves in there stumbling around like a mumbling idiot, and Winona Ryder in probably my least favorite role she's ever been in her frickin' life.
Well,
I'm gonna
Steve,
call this an end.
Instinct. You're probably like the only person I've ever heard say that they didn't like that movie. But I will say this. The last time I seen that movie, I have it on DVD. I haven't seen it yet on DVD. I had it on VHS, and it was a blurry transfer. But the last time I seen it, I thought it was a very slow movie. And I thought it really had elements that I'm not really used to in a Dracula movie. I would agree with you. It's not really the title of it should be Francis Ford Coppola's Dracula, because he really did have a big influence on the film. But I would be hypocrite in saying that because that I just don't like the movie because it was Francis Ford Coppola's vision, because I love Stanley Kubrick's The Shining. Like that's a great movie. But two different movies, totally different ideas, but I haven't seen that movie in a while. But the last time I did see it, I'll be honest, it was a little disappointing for me. But I have to give it a rewatch one day. But you're like the only person who actually has like rage towards the movie.
All right, I know I'm not the only one, because Cole from the Sausage Factory and his own channel, Jet Silver Adventure, also hates it.
So I'm not the only one, but I really, really dislike that movie.
Oh man, I'll have to give it a watch one day. I haven't seen it in a long, long time.
Like, yeah, I mean, I gotta admit, really, really well filmed movie. Like, great cinematography, and like I said, Gary Oldman, can't fault him. Really good Dracula, and Anthony Hopkins, really, really good Van Helsing. It's just everything else swirling around that, including the plot. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't seen that movie in a while. I'll have to give it another watch. But the first number one on this list, I don't know why I'm stumbling so much in the stream, but number one on this list is a movie that I had never heard about. I never knew about, never even knew about this film having, oh crap, Tim Robbins? Is that his name?
maybe?
Tim Robbins from
Yeah, Tim Robbins. Yeah.
Okay, because I don't know why I thought I forgot his name, but Tim Robbins from The Shawshank Redemption, which I had recently seen, thought that was a masterpiece. But I didn't really know that he did that movie. I didn't even know that Jacob Ladder was even, a movie until I heard about it from Matt. I almost called him Steve again, but Matt, Remember After Life. I mentioned him a lot because I had heard about this movie through Matt's review. And a lot of what this plot brought to the table kind of interested me, and I was very intrigued by the film. And one day I found just a copy of it, at buybacks, one of my, local buybacks, and picked it up for a good price. I think it was like $3, honestly. I was like, wow. So I picked it up, and when I had seen it, I really realized why Matt thinks this is such an underrated film, because really it plays a lot of interesting ideas. Interesting idea of what happens after death, how the afterlife would possibly be. The view of heaven and hell in this movie is very interesting, and just a person going through maybe their memories, maybe their past, maybe things they remember, but also having those sort of demonic elements in the movie. The movie is beautifully filmed, wonderfully acted. Tim Robbins in the movie is great. Probably one of my favorite performances. My favorite one probably was from The Shawshank Redemption, but oh crap, John wants to join. Hey, you want John to join us, man?
Sure, let him on. I haven't seen John in frickin' forever.
Me either, man. Let's get John on the stream. I think he's watching actually right now.
Yeah.
About the John Grande. Let's get the pajama pants player on the stream. Heck yeah.
Joint.
But yeah, where was I? Tim Robbins was great. Everybody in the movie is really awesome. And the movie's just haunting. It's chilling. It's suspenseful. It's well done. It's well acted. It's a very underrated movie because you really never, ever hear about this movie being talked about. And I think it has a Blu-ray, which is really awesome. I'm glad it got a Blu-ray. But really, a horribly underrated film that should be talked about more. It's really a great movie. So my number one pick is Jacob's Ladder. Fantastic movie.
Oh yeah, and it's another movie with a ton of like theological stuff in there. My one problem with it would be like a little bit too much nudity, but you can lay that aside sometime. I've seen about 60% of this movie. I haven't finished it yet. It's been sitting on my watch list shelf, my big pile over there forever. Because I started watching it one day and then I had to go to class, so I wasn't able to finish it. But man, I'm looking forward to watching it. It's a really, really cool movie thus far. Like from what I've seen, I really like it. It's got a lot of really deep emotional stuff in there too. A lot of stuff about Vietnam and stuff like that as well. So really cool, deep stuff there. I hope you don't mind that I add one movie into this because this is one that we both had on our list, but you actually switched it at the last minute with Dracula 2000, and I'm going to show it off real quick here.
I feel horrible.
We both had it on our list, This is The Exorcist 3. And
I'm insane for swapping that out for Dracula 2000. I'm so sorry.
no, that's okay. That's okay.
A way better movie.
No, that's okay. I don't mind. Exorcist 3. I want to talk. I wanted to talk about it because, first off, this Blu-ray edition is freaking awesome. If you have the chance to pick it up, it's really good. You got 2 discs. The outstanding thing on here. Well, actually, there's 2 outstanding things on here. The first one that I want to mention is that it has the director's cut of the movie. It's not exactly the Legion cut that's been talked about forever, but this is, sourced from elements that they could find. I think somewhat approved by William Peter Blatty. It's a little anticlimactic. The Legion cut is, but it has a lot of more character stuff, especially to do with Kinderman. Really cool stuff there. Another thing that's really, really cool is that it has the last ever interview with William Peter Blatty. And William Peter Blatty does an audio commentary over the movie with Michael Felsher of Red Shirt Pictures, and it's a great commentary. He talks about life, talks about faith, talks about the state he was in, I think, when he was making this movie. It's some really, really cool stuff. It's a deep movie. It's got a ton of really good cinematography, like low-key really good cinematography, really cool special effects, and just some dynamite performances by what's his name? Jason Miller, George C. Scott, Ed Flanders, and of course Brad Dourif. Dourif gives probably, I think, a better performance than he does as Chucky in here. Would you agree with that, Nate?
Absolutely. Just because I think that Chucky, being the character that he is, he can't really give all that emotion that character can. And I thought that just Brad Dourif fit that character so well, the Gemini killer in Exorcist 3.
Yeah. And I don't want to take anything else away from what you have to say, but I'll end it here, is that despite the fact that that it is also really, really dark in some of its subject matter and stuff, it has this really strange, offbeat sense of humor with a ton of quotable lines.
Yeah.
Anytime that Kinderman and Father, oh man, I can't remember his last name. Do you remember his last name?
No, I don't think it was Karis.
No, not Karis, but
Karis.
Karis's friend from the first movie.
Oh, man.
Anyway, he's played by Ed Flanders. Anytime that George C. Scott and Ed Flanders are on screen, they have this beautiful chemistry. They work so well together.
Dyer.
Yeah, Father Dyer, that's right. Who, by the way, is based on a real guy. But Father Dyer, really, really, really good humor in this movie too. Just it's one of, I think, the movies that really exemplify who William Peter Blatty was as a filmmaker and an artist. Besides just being, the author of The Exorcist. I don't know. I think it's a very personal film. I think it's a really, really cool movie. And I would put it up there with the original as a really good, not necessarily even a horror movie, but more of kind of a psychological drama. So, yeah.
Wow. I don't know what else I could say about it. Steve kind of just covered it. I mean, Exorcist 3 was a movie that I had found I never heard about. Actually, I heard more about Exorcist 4 and 2 than 3. Now that's a big problem. So I found part 3 at a flea market, and it was like for $1, and I was like, I've never, heard about it, never seen a trailer for it, never seen a sneak peek for it, never seen anything for it. So when I watched it, it was like a very good experience because of me not knowing about it. Because it was really like I was watching, like, man, this movie has some really great stuff in it. It has possibly one of the best, if not the best, jump scare scene in film history. It has the dark atmosphere. The atmosphere in this movie is such a heavy atmosphere. When you're watching it, you feel like maybe you're being watched. You feel like maybe it's something evil there you're watching, something evil in that presence. So it's like the presence of that atmosphere was felt, and like George C. Scott, I'm a huge fan of George C. Scott in this movie. This movie made me want to see more of his performances, especially in The Changeling. I haven't seen it yet, but it's made me want to check out George C. Scott a little bit more. I think that William Peter Blatty did a fantastic job with directing this movie. And what's so crazy is that he really didn't go on to make much more. He wrote the Ninth Configuration, which is what you talked about.
And directed
He also directed it. Yeah, he did direct it. He made The Exorcist 3, and you said the Ninth Configuration was a pretty good movie. So I don't really get why he didn't get to do more. I mean, he directed Legion from 2016, which I haven't seen.
It's the
it's the alternate cut. My bad.
Yeah.
Alternate.
Yeah, it's the alternate cut to The Exorcist 3, and what's interesting about it is that I don't know, it fits his closer vision. There's a John Grande. What's up, brother?
How you doing, fellas? What's shaking?
What's up? What's up? It's the Pajama Gents. I'm so sorry. I can't say it. You say it, John. You do it the best.
The Pajama Pants player?
There you go. What's up?
I'm not wearing pajamas, but I got my Dawn of the Dead socks on.
Oh, heck yeah, bro. That's cool.
Yeah, I got them from Fright Rags, man.
I want to get some stuff from them. They look like they sell some pretty neat stuff.
Yeah, these socks were awesome. They came with like all these kind of accessories and stuff. Like came with a sour gummy ball, like film facts, a creep show film facts, Stephen King. It's awesome, man.
Nice. That's awesome.
What's shaking with you John, guys? We're doing it's been too long.
I know, man. It's good to get you back on the stream again, man. Sorry I didn't send you an invite immediately. I thought you maybe would have been busy or something like that. I do apologize for that. But it's cool to have you on the stream, man. It's been a while since we've all been doing a stream, so it's pretty cool having us all back on here again. We're just discussing some more horror, man, like always. We're doing top 5 lists. We got some top 5 lists here. So if you was wanting to share, we just did our top 5 underrated horror films. And if you got any you wanted to mention, you can shoot if you want.
Well, dude, first let me say thank you for having me on, and don't even apologize at all. That's even nice of you to even say that. Don't even worry about it. I was actually out all day. I saw the new horror movie, A Quiet Place, with my friends. We saw that a couple hours ago, and we went out for a bite to eat. And then I came home and I saw you guys were live streaming. I was like, oh my God, I would love to join that because I did my podcast earlier today. So I was like, gotta do live stream with Steve and Nate because I haven't seen or talked to you guys in a while. But okay, so top 5, what? Just overall horror movies or like?
Well,
we're doing like multiple top 5s.
Yeah, we were doing multiple top 5s, but we just did our underrated ones. But if Nate's not too, if Nate's okay with this, I want you to really give us a quick rundown of A Quiet Place and tell us whether it's good or not, and whether it's good to go and spend money at the theater to watch it.
Okay, yeah, sure. I definitely think it's worth the price of admission. Is it 100% on Rotten Tomatoes worthy? Is it an 8.4 on IMDb worthy? I don't think so, personally. Like, 8.4 on IMDb is pretty high. Like, there are Oscar-winning movies that don't have that high of a score. It's not as good as, some of those movies, but it's a good time. There's some good tension scenes in there. This is how I felt about it. My 2 cents. It felt like a very long Twilight Zone episode. Very Twilight Zone feel, atmosphere, kind of story. The director, who's the guy from The Office, I can't think of it. John Krasinski. Yes. He's pretty much the whole show, writer, director, producer, and lead actor. And he does a fantastic job. He gets it. He gets the genre. Definitely worth your money, but don't go into it thinking this is going to be Oscar. No, it's not. It's like my friend Brandon was like, oh man, this is 8.4. Like this is like going to be, I was like, it's early. Like it will go down. Like I remember The Force Awakens had like a 9 something in its first day it came out. I was like, that will lower. And it did, obviously, but yeah, definitely worth it. I'd say.
Nice.
Well, great. I wanted to figure out what I needed to spend my money on this month, and I guess that's one of them. So,
yeah, definitely. If you want to go down to see that, I would totally recommend.
Nice.
I heard about it. I heard a lot about it, and I've also been really intrigued to see it. There's a lot of really interesting horror films that are going around the circuit right now that I kind of want to check out one day. Like there's one called Unsane. I want to see it. It looks pretty interesting to me. One that I don't want to see at all is Truth or Dare. I'm sorry, that looks like garbage. It looks like utter garbage.
Dude, that movie looks like Blumhouse is considered like our new, like I don't know if he's the new kind of, I don't know how to even, Roger Corman maybe, like he's producing all these horror movies, low budget kind of, but none of them, they're all like the same. Like, did you guys see the one Wish Upon where the girl gets like the wish box?
No,
I decided to skip that on Redbox.
Yeah, like, oh man, like it's just like there's no positives. Like there's nothing positive you can say. It's just Joey King running around acting scared, and it's like you don't get it. It's all jump scares and like it's just over saturation, man. I actually have a few stuff right here that I could even show. I got this release from Code Red. It is the double feature of House on the Edge of the Park and Last House on Massacre Street, which I had never heard of the second movie, but it's basically like not an exploitation movie. They just gave it that title so it would sell, I guess. Really good 2-pack and cheap too. I think you can get it on Amazon really cheap. Good transfer, really fun. It's like a Grindhouse drive-in double feature. And I also recently watched, I did a Do and a View, which is, I ripped it off from Raiho Magnifico. He does Brew and a View. I did Do and a View. And it is, They Call Her One Eye, a.k.a. Thriller, A Cruel Picture. Really fantastic exploitation movie from the 70s. It's basically about this girl, and was sexually assaulted as a kid, and she kind of gets like kidnapped, and they slowly get her addicted to heroin, and then they make her become like the head prostitute of this like prostitution ring. And then she basically on Mondays is her off day, and she trains and with guns and how to drive cars and taekwondo, and she plots her revenge. It is everything I'd ever want in a movie. I loved it to death. It's also called They Call Her One Eye, aka Hooker's Revenge, which is a perfect title. I love this movie. If you guys get your hands on Thriller, A Cruel Picture, that's my recommendation of the episode for sure.
Oh my goodness, that sounds like an awesome freaking movie.
It was, man, and I was online, because I'm big into exploitation. Like I just recently got I Spit on Your Grave on Blu-ray, and I listened to the the classic Joe Bob Briggs commentary. I just love that guy, man. You can listen to that guy talk about peanut butter for 2 hours, and it's just so entertaining. Like he just makes everything more entertaining. Like he could totally convince you Peter Pan is the best peanut butter or Jif or whatever. It's just, he's fantastic, man. I love Joe Bob.
Yeah, Briggs is freaking awesome stuff.
Yeah, I recommend. Steve, if you get it, I would totally recommend. There's 2 versions of this. There's the red version that I have. This is the one with like all the nudity and like, I know you're not a big nudity person. If you get the yellow edition, it's a lot more cut. So I totally recommend, because this movie has some crazy sex scenes in it. Like I couldn't believe some of the like I was like, holy Christ, like this is like it was crazy.
That's right up your
There's
alley,
like
Steve.
full-on penetration in there, isn't there?
Yes. And there's
Yeah.
also the scene where he cuts her eye out they used a real dead corpse.
Oh my
Mm.
gosh.
It's not a practical effect at all. It's a real dead corpse they use. So this crazy Swedish director, what's his name? Bo A. Verbinius. Crazy guy, but
Yeah.
I love him.
That sounds like one heck of a movie.
I totally recommend.
Yeah, I'll check it out. There's like a lot of hooker-based horror films, like Frankenhooker, Chainsaw Hookers, stuff like that. It's like they explore that a lot in horror.
It's just such a fun, like, why not? Just give a hooker a reason to want to kill some people, and you got a fun, entertaining 90 minutes. And like even like I know there are a lot of like feminist horror fans that say, oh, this is my horror movies. Like I enjoy the hell. I watch these movies to death, man. I just enjoy the revenge plots because they're just so entertaining. It's like you're going to see someone get their comeuppance, and that's what's so fun about it. That's what keeps you watching.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, she may be getting hers now, but she's going to get revenge, and that's like the whole reason to watch. It's good stuff. But what have you got? Have you guys been watching anything good? Like, what lists have you guys talked about thus far?
Well, I'll let you go, Nate. I kept breaking in before anybody else can talk.
That's good. That's good. Right now we're on top 5 underrated horror films. Really, any recent movies I haven't seen. I seen American Psycho, great movie. I
Real
seen
good one.
Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer, another great one. Underrated horror film that I never really heard about. So I seen it and I thought it was going to be a slasher movie.
Disturbing.
I got
Very
blown
disturbing.
away. Yeah. I was like, that's not a slasher movie.
It disturbed me, and nothing disturbs me. That movie disturbed me.
It's fantastic though. It's such a maniacal masterpiece. It's like amazing how great it is, but it's also just so dark. But it's such a great movie. I love Michael Rooker in the movie. He does a great job as Henry. But yeah, those are some recent movies. But right now we are on top 5 underrated horror films. Me and Steve just went through our list. If you got any like underrated horror films that you was wanting to discuss, you totally can, man. If you was wanting to.
Really quick before this gets away, though, I wanted to comment on like the exploitation thing because, as both of you probably know, we recently had an exploitation classic remade in the theater, and that's Death Wish.
Yep.
And I just want to go ahead and just say this has got the Steve seal of approval because, like, freaking offensive and bloody as all get out. There were a couple of black ladies in the theater, like right next. So, okay, this is kind of my story. Before I get married, my family and I went down for like kind of a final spring vacation to Gatlinburg, Tennessee, and we're trying to figure out stuff to do because we don't have any plans. Whatever. We're eating at Big Daddy's Pizza, hanging around, and then they're like, hey, do you want to go see a movie? And I said, yeah, sure. And they're like, well, they're showing Jumanji. And then my dad pulls up his phone, and he's just like, well, they've got Death Wish. I'd kind of like to see that. And I said, we got to watch Death Wish. We go in, freaking bloody as heck, crazy. It's got some offensive stuff in it, some funny offensive stuff in it, of course.
Fun for the family.
Less rape than I was expecting. So at least you got that there, I guess. I was expecting some pretty brutal rape, but whatever. And there's these 2 old black ladies sitting next to my mother, and they're just laughing and screaming like crazy. If for no other reason, go to see like a politically incorrect movie in a very politically correct time.
Yes.
It's not like racist or anything. I wouldn't go as far to say that, but guns are very good in it. Bruce Willis is, he's pretty controversial. They've got like they got a couple of like Chicago. Well, it's set in Chicago, so obviously that's already politically incorrect. Big, bastion of gun control and stuff like that. And you add in to that, they've got a couple of these actual Chicago DJs that are commenting on this idea as if it were a real thing, and they're like trying to put forward like, oh, well, this is kind of crazy. This is kind of politically incorrect. And this other guy is just like, screw that. Let's have somebody like that go out and kill some people for once. And I don't know. It's a fun movie. It's not as good as the Charles Bronson movies, like any of them, but it's a fun watch in the theaters.
That's awesome. See, I love politically incorrect anything. It's just because I can't, like, if you can't separate movies from reality, like some people go, that's too much, and what's going on now. And I actually, like, my school had a huge problem with the Death Wish movie, the new one, because of what just happened in Florida with that, and people saying, how could they release a movie with gun violence at a time? I was like, they did not know that was going to happen, and nor was it planned, or is it trying to say anything about that? I'm like, you have to separate the two. It's like, it's trying to be a fun exploitation movie. There are just some people that can't make that distinct, like they can't separate the two. They're just like, no, this is in bad taste. And like, that is what it is, but it's a movie, and it's not, it was not intended to. I'm sure Eli Roth would not have had it come out so soon after what happened. I don't think it was a plan.
Yeah, I mean, say what you want about Eli Roth. I'm not a big fan, but the guy is a leftist, and if he had anything to say about when it came out, I'm sure he would have been like, no, we need to either push this back or shelve it or something like that. I will say I think it's the best thing Eli Roth has ever made. Maybe just because Bruce Willis is in it, and Bruce Willis does a pretty good job of being Bruce Willis. So, but I think it's worth a watch. Check it out on video, maybe if you get it on Redbox, get a free rental or something like that. I'd say give it a try. So, but I don't want to take any more time away from John. You go ahead, whatever you want to talk about, brother.
Well, thank you for the recommendation. I will definitely probably give it a rent sometime soon. As for underrated horror, I won't take too much time here because I don't really have anything prepared or anything like that. But the Sleepaway Camp sequels are the first two movies that come to mind. I think they're really criminally underrated. I love those two movies to death. I would say Videodrome, if you've never seen that. It's a Cronenberg movie with James Woods as the lead, and it is fantastic, man. Like, that is one of my favorite movies that nobody really mentions. Really good stuff. That's like it should be a mainstream movie in my eyes. House by the Cemetery would be one for sure. Lucio Fulci, really, really, really good atmospheric haunted house little zombie movie about this family that moves in, and all this crazy stuff starts happening, a lot of gore, and they have this woman in it that creeps me out to no end. Even though she's gorgeous, the woman is beautiful. I believe her name is Anna Polini, something like that. Very Italian. She has these gorgeous blue like aqua colored eyes, and she just pops. She's also in Tenebrae and Inferno, which were Argento films a little bit after that, but really good movie. Also watched one recently called Living Dead at the Manchester Morgue, aka Let Sleeping Corpses Lie. Really good early 70s kind of pre-dawn, but after Night of Living Dead zombie movie. Italian flavor, really good, man. European kind of, just great shots. Really, really loved the entire movie. And I guess the last one I can mention, have either of you guys ever seen Deep Red, Argento?
Oh, great movie.
Never heard. I'm not really familiar with Argento that much. That's like the one field of horror I've never really treaded on that much, but I got to.
If you're going to dip into the pool known as Dario Argento, which is a fantastic pool to go swimming in, I would totally recommend. Deep Red is probably my second, if not my favorite, next to Suspiria. But I would recommend also a movie called Phenomena with Jennifer Connelly, who's beautiful, even as a like 15, 16-year-old girl. And Donald Pleasance is actually in it as well. That's a great movie too, where she like kind of talks to these bugs and like can track this killer via these bugs. And there's this great like heavy metal like soundtrack to it. And oh man, I love everything about that movie. But man, Deep Red, I had never seen it until about a month ago. And I just put it on one night and I was like taken back. I was like, this is one of the best horror movies I've ever seen. The score is one of the greatest scores, like on there with Halloween's score to me. Like it's so creepy, that lullaby. It's kind of similar to Halloween, come to think of it, but it works. It really scared me. There's a doll in it, the creepy little doll in it. Really good stuff, man. I'm a huge fan of Deep Red. I would say that would be one of my most underrated. I think more people should definitely give that one a watch because it is criminally underrated. But yeah, I guess that would be 5. I just came off the top of my head.
It's cool, man.
Pretty
It's cool.
freaking good list off the top of your head,
Yeah.
man. That's great.
I gotta dive more on the Argento stuff because I think the only thing I've seen that had Argento connected with it was Dawn of the Dead, and that's bad. 'Cause I've heard of some really great movies. Like Suspiria is one of the movies that I've been wanting to see for the longest time, but I haven't got a chance to watch it yet.
Yeah, I mean, it's Argento's one of those guys that you either really like it or you really don't. Like I actually know quite a few people I've tried to show Argento movies to, and they tell me, I don't know what's going on. There's no plot. Like you have to explain to those people that there isn't really a constructed like plot. It's just enjoy the visuals, enjoy the atmosphere. Don't ask questions. Just sit back and enjoy the experience and the aesthetic of the stuff on the screen. And the Blu-ray high def always helps that. Like Opera, phenomenal movie. The final shots of that movie when she's running on the hills from the killer, that is crystal on high def, man. Like I'm just in awe thinking about it. Like that is a fantastic movie. Any Argento movie has got a great aesthetic to it, man. Nate, I could give you a list of Argento movies if you're interested, because I think you'll totally like it.
Yeah, I can't wait to check him out one day. I also want to check out Lucio Fulci's work as well. I should see some more of his movies as well. I'm a really big fan of Italian type of European horror films.
I've got actually one more underrated. Have you guys ever seen Crazy Fat Ethel?
I've heard the name.
Never seen it. Never even heard of it.
If you guys can get your hands on that movie, get your hands on that movie. It is one of my favorites of all time. This is the plot. There's this crazy overweight woman and she gets out of a psych ward and she's coming home to live with her mother. So her mother orders like all this food for the week, and Ethel comes home, and since it's her first week from the ward, she just decides to eat all of this food, like 3 pounds of bacon, like 2 dozen eggs, like crazy amount of food. And then the next day she's like, Ma, you got to go shopping again. And the mom's like, I have to cut you off. You just ate all the food for the week. And so she puts locks on the cabinets, and then basically Ethel becomes crazy. And she kills her mom, and then she basically kills anyone who gets in her way of her next meal. It is fantastic. It is one of the funniest movies I've ever seen in my life, man. There are scenes where she's eating like 10 baked potatoes. She's like using like 4, 5, 6 of butter, and like she's like, oh man, she's like, I don't even have a steak with this. Do you believe this? And I'm like, this is some funny stuff. It's like 70 minutes long. It's barely feature length, but man, if you want to have a good time, see some gore and laugh your ass off, Crazy Fat Ethel's the way to go. That's an underrated one for sure.
Is that a trauma movie?
It is not actually. It's just a really low budget. It fits right in with that kind of movie.
Yeah, I had the chance to buy that at Scarefest one year, and I regret it so hard. Like, I guess it was my choice between that or Dark Knight of the Scarecrow, and I don't regret buying Dark Knight of the Scarecrow, but man, Crazy Fat Ethel.
Dark Knight of the Scarecrow is a really good movie too. You did not make a poor choice.
Yeah.
We actually just talked about that on the show. We did for my podcast. We did the horrors of 1981, and we talked about every horror movie that came out that year, and it was a lot of fun.
Dude,
Yeah, guys,
go
subscribe to
ahead,
them.
Nate. Sorry.
I'm just telling them to go subscribe to Don Belleville's channel. John and him do some really awesome live streams. Really enjoy them. They're hilarious.
Yeah, we don't post as much on YouTube. It's actually like Spreaker and iTunes. If you guys are interested, anybody listening, it's called Flashback Horror Movie Podcast. We basically just do whatever. We did this past 2 weeks. We did the March Movie Madness, and we did this bracket of horror movies, and it was a lot of fun. Like discussing and debating which 2 movies versing each other, and it was a lot of fun, man. It was a fun episode. We wrapped it this morning, which should be up later,
Nice.
sometime tomorrow.
That's some cool stuff. There was a while where I was like listening to a ton of you guys' podcasts, and like for some reason I fell off, and I was like, like lately I've been like, man, what do I want to listen to? Because I don't want to listen to politics right now. I don't want to listen to. You guys might think this is stupid, but there are like 5 Scooby-Doo podcasts that I listen to. Don't judge me.
Steve, you're the man.
But here's what. But like. I forgot that you all had a podcast, and I'm just like, oh yeah, that's right. But like, I was just thinking today, and I like not in conjunction with the fact that you have a podcast, but I was just thinking today, like, man, John's got a really great voice. I wonder if he's ever going to go anywhere with that like broadcasting thing. And I was like, he's got a really good voice. Maybe you should do a podcast. I was like, oh wait.
Thank you, Steve. I appreciate it. And I'm only 1 more year away from graduating with my broadcast degree. So hopefully I can go places. But for now, podcasts only, which has been a lot of fun. I've really enjoyed talking horror weekly or bi-weekly. It's just a fun thing to do, man. I love getting together and just talking about some movies, and it's just fun. I've kept up with the genre more this past year than I really have before the podcast. So it's a fun way to keep myself interested into what's going on now, and picking up new releases and stuff like that. Just for casual watching and stuff. It's been really cool.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, man, they're really cool to check out. I seen the one where Don interviewed an author, and that was really interesting. I was really into the episode. It was one of those ones that I didn't click out of all. Like I was just sucked into the episode.
Yeah, and Justin Kurzweil is his name. He wrote a book about slasher movies, and it's basically just like the complete history. And he's a really nice guy. I was in the interview as well, and like he was just very interesting to talk to. I actually talked to him about this release, the Video Nasties, because he's from the UK. So I figured he was probably alive when all this stuff was happening, and I wanted to know. And he was just a book, and it was like interviewing a book. He just had all this information. He was like, oh well, this was this, and this is why this happened. I was like, this is so interesting. Like I barely spoke for like that interview is like an hour long. I think I maybe got 2 or 3 questions in. I just was enjoying listening myself. It was really cool to listen to. He was a cool guy. He has his own show too. I think it's called The Hysteria Continues. They do like 1 show a month.
It was really good. I was in that episode. Sorry,
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Yeah. No problem, man. I don't know if we should just keep doing this or if we should go with the top list. Both fun ideas. I don't know. You want to go with the top list? I think we should. That's the format.
Let's go the top 5 like we were talking about, and we'll, I guess, maybe leave off at that after that.
All right.
Because
the final list.
The next list that we have here is kind of a obvious one that I kind of just threw in there, but top 5 favorite horror films of all time, of course. But I want you guys to do your guys' first because I've already discussed mine in a big long video, so it's up to you guys. I don't really, whoever wants to go first can. Top 5 favorite horror films.
If you haven't seen that video, John, it's 48 minutes, and it's worth every bit of it. But yeah, I listened to that. That was a good one, Nate. But
Thanks, bro.
I guess I can launch off real quick. Sorry, I'm getting my confused ones with because okay, this is a weird thing to say, but so my underrated horror film starts with number 5 as a Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2, and then my top 5 starts with the original Nightmare on Elm Street. Now I was getting those confused for a second there on my phone screen, but yeah, my number 5 is Nightmare on Elm Street. Great movie. We've talked about it on the show probably way too many times.
Yeah, a lot.
And I mean, we did a. I don't know if I was on for this or not, but I know you guys did like a retrospective of it at one point or something, and I don't know. Really cool movie, of course, and I can't add anything that everybody else hasn't already mentioned. I actually haven't seen it in a while, but it's one of my favorites.
And then like we could do like where John could do his number 5, and then Steve could do number 4, and or something like that if you guys are up for that.
Okay. You do one, John.
Sure. On my number 5, I actually have a movie that kind of has really, I think, moved up on my list, and it's just, I don't know. Every time I think about it, every time I see it, it just moves up. It's just one of those movies that it really stands the test of time for me, and that is Last House on the Left. I love that movie. I just love everything about it. Like, and I know my friend Jasmine always teases me. She goes, "You like those bumbling cops and that stupid music?" And I'm like, that's just part of the fun, Jasmine. Like, it's beautiful. Like, it's that scene in the woods when he gets finished doing what he's doing, and he has that disgusted look on his face, and they're playing that music of Now You're All Alone. And that is just one of the great scenes in horror history. And I love that we did a show on horror, best horror scenes. That's probably, I think that's our highest rated show. Everybody says that's our best show, which was a really fun one to do because it was tough. But man, I love that scene so much. And Sandra Castle kind of just strays off into the corner and into that lake. And like, it's just so, while it's sad, it's terrifying at the same time because you realize she kind of gives up and she's kind of defeated in that moment. And it's like, she really is like, you've taken away my adulthood before I even got to know what it was. And that scares me, man. Like, there's nothing more real than that. I mean, you have to put yourself in those shoes, and you're terrified even thinking about it. And that's why I think that movie has stood the test of time. The revenge, David Hess, some of the stuff he says to the father at the end where he gets punched in the face and he says, "Oh, come on, Doc, your daughter put up a better fight than this." And like, he is just such a great villain. And he gets punched again. He goes, "Oh man, you're not as good as Sadie." And like, he just, oh man, David Hess deserves a wing in the Horror Hall of Fame if there was such a thing, because that performance just, I love it. One of my favorites of all time. Yeah, Last House on the Left is my number 5.
Yeah. Hess is also in what was the one that you showed just recently?
House on the Edge of the Park.
Yeah. How is he in that?
He's basically playing the same role. It's he's like a mechanic. And one night these people come into his place and he's about to leave to go boogieing. And he even goes, "I'm going boogieing." And he's got like this yellow, awful, like leisure jacket on. And I'm like, yes, this is what life should be. It should be David Hess in a yellow leisure suit. But these people are like, "Oh, can you help us fix our car?" And he's kind of interested in one of the girls. And they're like, "We'll pay you." And he's like, "Oh, I'm not interested." And he's like, "Are you going to a party though?" And they say, "Yeah." And so he goes, "Oh, I'm going to call up my buddy." And it's Giovanni Lamberto Radici, who's in like all these Italian movies like Cannibal Ferox, Cannibal Apocalypse, City of the Living Dead. And he comes with him, and they start teasing Giovanni Lamberto Radici because he's like a little special. He's like mentally challenged. And David Hess does not find this very funny. And he decides to pretty much stalk, slash, and rape the entire party. And it's a thrill ride, and it's very, I don't think, Steve, I don't know if you'd like it. It's very sleazy, like very sleazy, like porn sleazy. But I mean, some of the scenes in it, there's a scene in it where this girl comes over and she's oblivious to the fact that David Hess is now taking control of this party. And he's like, he comes up to her and he's like flirting with her, and she doesn't know that he's crazy. And she's like, oh, you're cute. Who are you? And he's like, oh, I'm just a guy. And he goes, are you a virgin by any chance? And he just starts taunting this girl and verbally just destroys her to the point where she's in tears, and like he's like, take your clothes off. And it's man, it's a scary movie, man. I was really terrified watching it. I'd recommend, but you have to definitely be okay with some stuff. It's heavy stuff. It's Last House on the Left is a lot lighter, and that's crazy to say because you wouldn't think that would be a light movie, but it's a Disney film compared to House on the Edge of the Park. It's extreme.
I do have to say, I'm not a big fan of Last House on the Left. I'll admit that, but one of the things that like Craven does really well in that is heartbreak and how emotional sort of the end of the hippie era is, because one of the things I respect about that movie is it's one of the things that really kind of pushed the hippie era into this is the end. It helped to put that nail in the coffin of acid rock and all the free love movement and all this stuff, because you see, especially in that movie, that this is sort of the ultimate end of this sort of age of Aquarius, this idea that we can go out and we can do whatever we want, we can be free and all this stuff. The price is that you can go out and try and be free as much as you want, and sometimes that's a really great thing, but there are dangers to it. And what the hippie movement got wrong is that they didn't know that there were dangers to it and didn't want to accept that. It's a really interesting movie as far as that's concerned, and also a lot of like really legit funny stuff in there too. I mean, and again, you were talking about David Hess, about how he really does kind of like, he deserves his place in the Horror Hall of Fame, and it's kind of a sad thing that he's gone now. He kind of passed away low profile. Not a lot of people, mourning him or anything like that, because he was kind of a small figure in horror, but in a way he had a lot. He did a lot for the world. The guy wrote some of Elvis's songs, so I mean, he's great just for that. And now, now you're all alone. That's a great song. They use it in the Hateful Eight. In a scene. So, but great number 4. Oh, I mean number 5. Sorry.
Thank you.
So, Last House is great.
Yeah. Well, my number 4. Oh, I actually have these over here. I actually have them. So my number 4 is Scream. Love that movie, of course. Again, I can't add much to like what we've already said about it. I was showing off to Nate earlier my Matthew Lillard autograph I got at Scarefest a few years back. That guy's a really cool guy to meet. Funny guy. I asked him about playing Shaggy.
I knew it.
And he talked about how like cool the guy who plays Fred is in the in like the cartoons and stuff like that, because he's like, yeah, the guy's been going for like 50 years and he's still a teenager, It's great. It's great. He's a really cool guy though. He was a really nice guy. All right, can you guys confirm something for me? Because I don't know if you guys have seen this movie or not. Have either of you guys seen the movie Moneyball?
I have.
Okay. No. Oh, sorry. I said Moneyball. I'm sorry. Trouble with the Curve. I always get those mixed up. Have either of you guys seen that one?
I have not seen that.
Okay, never mind. I was gonna ask, like, is he in that movie? Because there were 2 guys in the line who just obviously did not seem like horror fans. They did not have like a picture for him to sign or a poster for him to sign that was horror related. They had Trouble with the Curve, which apparently is one of their favorite movies and stuff. I saw that movie. I thought I don't even remember him in it, and I think it's like one of Clint Eastwood's worst movies that he's made, and I'm including Every Which Way But Loose. Um, so, but take that as you will. He was a cool guy to meet, though.
He made a really bad directed DVD like Bad News Bears rip off baseball movie that I saw. Matthew Lillard as the lead.
Really?
Yes, I don't know. I'll look up the title, but I'm thinking maybe it was that one. Was it definitely? You remember it was verbatim? It was definitely Trouble with the Curve.
Oh yeah, I know it was Trouble with the Curve because these guys had the poster, but I didn't see his name like at top billing or anything. I'm kind of afraid that these guys who are like a couple people behind me, were gonna get up there and realize that he wasn't in the movie. Poor guys, but you know they came to
That
a
would be
horror
awesome.
convention. They came to a horror convention. They should have brought like a Scream poster, even a Scooby Doo poster would have been appropriate, or a I don't know, something he's in. I can't think of it. Isn't he in? Okay, I know I'm like kind of hijacking this, but isn't he in Cursed for like 5 minutes or something like that? Wes Craven's Cursed.
I think he was written out of it. Same with Skeet Ulrich. Weren't they both originally in it, and then their scenes were cut?
I think you might be right. You might be right. That's a really weird like production history for a movie too, isn't it? Like it's a horrible movie too, but it's kind of got something about it that's kind of like fun and silly. But anyway, what's your number 4, John? Sorry, I keep interrupting with weird stuff. But
It's okay. He was in Trouble with the Curve. That is confirmed.
Okay.
I'm still trying to find the other one, the Bad News Bears one that was really bad. But my number 4 is actually Nightmare on Elm Street. So I know you guys were just saying how much you talked about it, so we could brush over that. That is one of my favorite movies of all time, of course. I actually have a review. That was one of my last YouTube videos I've done to date. That was like 2 years ago or something close to that. But yeah, definitely Elm Street, and you guys know why it's great. So we can definitely just jump right back to Steve.
Oh yeah. Well, that's a great movie. I gotta pull up my list because I've changed mine up so much. Okay, so Nate and I were doing this thing where, if he mentioned a movie, I didn't want to mention it again on the list, so we did like just kept talking about the same movie and over and over and over. My real number 3 is, of course, Halloween. Halloween's great. Can't say anything bad about it. And again, another thing you can't really add to it. But I replaced it because Nate had it as his. Was it your number 2, Nate?
Let me check. Yeah, it was number 2.
Yeah. So he replaced it as his. I replaced it with another one of my favorites, which is Creep Show, which I really love. I actually think this is, to me, George Romero's masterpiece, but that's it's not quite a popular opinion, but I love the movie. It's and it's one that you actually can add stuff to, because you can talk about, when you talk about great movie scores, you don't think of Creepshow, but you go back and listen to the score, especially even if you listen to it while you're not watching the movie, you realize how dynamic and crazy that score is. And I don't know, it's got some really good music in it. Course, all the great segments, and yeah, I like all 5 of them. I even like Stephen King's little segment as Jordy Verrill.
That's my favorite.
Oh yeah, he's freaking awesome.
Yeah.
Give me your shit.
Yeah. Actually, if I ever meet Stephen King, I might just have him like sign that on a picture, just like
you long kid. Long kid.
He'd probably get PO'd at me. Like he's really pissy about like his horror movies sometimes. He really is. Like if you listen to his interviews, he's like, "Oh, The Shining," and "Oh,
I did horrible in that segment as Jordy Verrill, and I don't even want to talk about Maximum Overdrive, but meanwhile, there's frickin' Maximum Overdrive, and it's a frickin' awesome movie, and Jordy Verrill's cool, and I don't know.
Long live Emilio Estevez.
Yes, in his greatest role as what's his name from Maximum Overdrive.
The Mighty Duckman. I swear to God, I was like, Emilio!
Fry cook.
Yeah, man. But yeah, that's my number 3. I love Creepshow.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. John Harrison's score, Something to Tide You Over, They're Creeping Up on You. I mean, so many great little moments. Even the wraparound with Tom Atkins, I love. I've always loved that too. That's a fantastic choice. My number 3 is actually The Shining. Speaking of Stephen King, I'm just a huge fan of that movie. Jack Nicholson's perfect. Kubrick is even better. I actually have the Kubrick collection. It's like all his movies on Blu-ray. I really recommend any film fan get that, because like it is so awesome, and all movies are great in their own way. But yeah, The Shining is an all-time classic. I mean, how can you go wrong? It's one of the best atmospheric horror movies, taking place in that cold atmosphere of the Overlook Hotel, and some of the brilliant, bright, popping colors. I just love that movie to death, man. There's really I could write a novel on how much I love The Shining. It's that perfect of a movie. Yeah, so that's my number 3.
Awesome. Okay, and this relates, I promise. Pizzal, from the Sausage Factory, and his own channel, was reviewing Ready Player One with his brother Jeremy, and apparently there's a scene in Ready Player One where they just step into The Shining. They just step into the hotel and they're there, and there's the wrinkly, horrible old woman there, and there's blood coming out of the elevators and stuff like that. And from what I hear, if you see that movie in 3D, the blood coming out of the elevators is what 3D was made for. That's just what I've heard. I haven't seen the movie. I'm really considering going to see it just for that. So,
Steve, I think you might have just like persuaded me to buy a ticket right now.
Yeah. And another thing, Chucky's in there, Freddy's in there, Jason's in there, the Iron Frickin' Giant is in there.
What?
I don't know. Yeah.
Heck yeah, bro.
Sounds like they just like dipped into my brain and just like poured it out.
What is Steven Spielberg?
Yeah. I hear it's like third tier Spielberg. It's not great Spielberg, but it's entertaining. So, and that's all I look for in really a Steven Spielberg movie. But
definitely.
All right, but that's a great pick. Shining is awesome.
Quick question, Steve.
Yeah.
Are you a fan of Hook?
I haven't seen Hook in a really long time. And the last time I watched it was on ABC Family, when ABC Family was a freaking thing and it wasn't whatever Freeform is or whatever. But I liked it when I saw it last time, but it's, I haven't seen it in a long time, and I've heard people talk about it recently. And they're talking about how the movie's like really long and has some stuff in there that's a little bit questionable, especially like some sexual stuff with who is it who plays Tinkerbell in that?
Julia Roberts.
Julia Roberts, yeah. Well, makes sense. She was the big America's sexy lady at the time. So, but yeah. I'd go back and watch it. It's at my local Meijer for like $5, so I might go pick that up and check it out again. I don't know. I haven't seen it in a long time, so I couldn't give you a full opinion on it.
I feel you, brother.
What do you think of Hook?
I'm a huge fan. I was talking with my friend Jasmine in class, and we were just talking about how much we love this movie. And like some kid in the back who we've never spoken to or heard from just goes, "Are you too serious?" He goes, "I hear you two talk about movies every day." He goes, "You like that movie?" And we were like, "Yeah. Who doesn't love Rufio and uh, Dustin Hoffman and Robin Williams playing Peter Pan? Who you couldn't have got anyone better to play Peter Pan, I don't think." And it's considered one of the worst Spielberg, and I'm like, no way, like no way, like I can't even fathom disliking that movie. I don't get the hate. That's just one of those movies I completely don't get the hate.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I think maybe
I
one of the
haven't-
reasons is. Oh, go ahead, Nate. Sorry about that.
No, you're good. It's good. I was just gonna say, like, I haven't seen it in a while either. Like Steve, I seen it. I had it when I was really young. I was a vintage kid, so I had a VHS player, and I had it on VHS. But I seen it years ago. I can't remember it that much, but I have to get another watch.
Yeah. What was it? I recently heard some stuff about it. I think maybe one of the reasons that people don't like that movie so much is just in comparison to the rest of Spielberg's movies before that. And, you know, I guess that makes sense because at least from what I remember, I mean, it's, you know, it's no E.T., but it's a fun movie as far as I remember. So I don't know. I think people who are really overcritical of Hook just like are a little bit too overcritical in their lives in general because that's a pretty fun movie as far as I remember. But, you know, Dustin Hoffman's freaking great, just chewing up the scenery like no other. Let's see. But I just realized that my number 2 like really blends in with your number 3, and it's The Thing, because both great snow movies. Can't say anything wrong about The Thing. Again, Nate had this on his list. I believe it was your number 4, Nate. And I just replaced it with another one of my favorite John Carpenter films, which is The Fog. For some reason, I didn't grab my Blu-ray. I just got my DVD, but it's a good DVD and a good Blu-ray, and of course, a really good movie. Both of these have like just stellar music and cinematography and everything. Especially in The Fog, you got Tom Atkins being yet again just a freaking pimp. I just realized that we've talked about, like, throughout this podcast, we've talked about Tom Atkins probably like 5 times, and there is nothing wrong with that.
I know, right?
I recently heard something about Tom Atkins, and I don't know if it's true, but I've heard that he's actually gay.
I didn't hear about that. Like, what?
Yeah. Or that he's like bisexual and had a partner for a while. That's one of the weirdest things that I've ever heard, because I have seen Halloween 30.
Yeah, exactly.
I have seen The Fog, and I have seen all of his other freaking crazy stuff. He's not even trying to be a pimp in Night of the Creeps, but he still is. Despite Thrill Me, baby. Thrill Me. Fantastic stuff. I don't know if I believe it, but I heard something about it. I think it might have been from IMDb. I don't always trust IMDb, nor do I ever trust Wikipedia. So, not sure about that there. But yeah, he's not in The Thing, and I feel like there's a role in there for him somewhere. So let's just see if we can get some images of him and insert that into The Thing, and it'll be probably the best John Carpenter movie just based on that. It's still already the best, I think, but, you know, add some more extra mustachy flavor in there.
I agree. The Thing is my favorite Carpenter film too. We actually just talked about this on the show. My co-host, his favorites are The Thing, Jaws, and Alien. It's like a combination of those 3. So in the bracket, when it came time for those movies to face, I was like, this is like picking which child you like better, right? He was like, exactly, you know. It was the same thing with me with Texas Chainsaw versus The Shining. It was like picking a child, but that is my number 2 is Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Obviously, I mean, one of the greatest of all time. I don't even think words can't do it justice. I don't know if I told you guys this, but I saw the movie on 35 millimeter a few months back. Double feature with Motel Hell, both on 35 mil. Fantastic. Like, you have not seen that movie until you see it on 35 millimeter. It was that amazing. Like, it was one of, if not the greatest movie experiences I've ever had. I took a video of the final. It was funny, like the scene right at the end when she's about to jump into the truck, the reel of the movie broke. And so everybody just starts going, oh my God, everyone's going crazy. And then they somehow fixed it and then played the last literal minute of the movie. It was so funny. And like everybody started booing and they were like, hold on, it broke, it's old. Man, it was fantastic. We took pictures with the posters and it was such a fun movie night, man. I totally, if you can get your hands on, or if there's any screenings by you guys, see that movie on 35 millimeter because it really adds to an atmosphere that I already thought was perfect. Like, this takes 100% and makes it 110%. It's that great. Like, I love it so much.
The Gid Man's here.
This is my favorite horror fiend.
What's up, Gideon?
Looks like he's invisible and mute.
The invisible boatmobile.
All right, we'll wait for him to connect. Oh, there he is. That kind of scared the crap out of me. I was like, whoa.
It's freaking late at night. It's too late for this crap, man. Too scared.
I am a messenger of Satan.
Are you Hermes?
I am Zool.
I'm Hermes.
No, I'm that kid from Neverending Story.
I'm the Keymaster. You the gatekeeper?
Are you the Keymaster?
Can I be Valcor?
I love that movie.
Gideon, come scratch my ear.
Yes, master.
That's great.
Oh wait, I got something better. I didn't mean to interrupt y'all. I just wanted to join because it's been hella long since I've been able to talk to y'all.
Yeah,
I know, man. It's good having you back, dude. We was starting to miss you on the stream, dude.
Oh, we horror brothers for life.
It's an impromptu reunion.
The reunion.
It's like we all come back and we're all like 40 and shit, and like we all like,
oh god, yes.
We all lose all our hair.
Oh, what's up, boy?
I'm not a boy no more. I'm a grandpa.
Yeah, I went out and watched Cockblockers tonight, and it was awful.
Oh, with John Cena?
Oh man.
Anyway,
Anything
there's
with John
so
Cena.
much dirty crap in it.
I saw A Quiet Place, Gideon. I saw the blockers, people going in to see blockers tonight though, and I was like, I'm glad I'm going to this movie.
I laughed till I was like bleeding out of my nose. I don't know how they got away with it. Spoiler alert, I guess. You see a pair of male genitalia on screen, uncensored.
Ew.
Like, actually, the whole entire thing. I'm not lying.
Who wants to see that, man?
Sexy as heck.
I guess me and my friends would.
Is it John Cena?
Yeah, you actually get to see his thing get grabbed.
No way.
I'm not lying.
I'm really hoping that's freaking prosthetic.
And they couldn't have paid me like millions of dollars to even do that on screen.
He's just like, hey, you can see me.
Yeah.
Oh crap, my microphone's really loud.
Hustle, loyalty, nudity.
What's your profanity?
The doctor of thugonomics. All right, so let's finish our top ones. Do you want to finish us off, Steve? We'll do our number ones.
Yeah, we'll do our number ones. I've got it over here, but I really just don't want to reach my arm over that way. So it's The Exorcist. And there are a lot of things I could say about how much I love The Exorcist. But I said most of them when I was talking about The Exorcist 3 earlier. We were talking about how much Nate and I really, really enjoy The Exorcist 3. And the same reasons I like The Exorcist 3 are the same reasons that I like The Exorcist, for the most part. Even down to the really kind of offbeat sense of humor that some of the movie has. It's also got just a lot of commentary on faith and ideas about what's the role of the church, what's the role of science when it comes to unexplainable phenomena and all this different stuff. It touches on kind of the barbarism of science and what can result from a purely rationalistic understanding of the world. I realize that we're past 1 a.m. and I'm throwing out like 3-syllable words, but I'm an English major and you're going to have to deal with it. So yeah, there's some really cool stuff going on there from just a filmic perspective. Just freaking awesome cinematography, really well written. The acting's like off the charts good. Although I think sometimes one of the things I don't like about the movie, there are maybe two, and there's only one I really want to mention, is I think that Linda Blair gets too much credit for what I think is mostly Mercedes McCambridge's true performance. When you read up on what actually happened to Mercedes McCambridge for her to be able to produce that demonic voice, you realize that it's not Linda Blair. And I'm not saying anything too bad about Linda Blair, even though I disagree with 90% of the things that she believes nowadays. She is...
she believes in dogs.
Yeah, she does. Way too freaking much.
Oh, no. There's not.
I'm a dog lover, okay? I freaking love dogs. Dogs are freaking awesome not human beings, but awesome creatures. Again, it's 1 a.m. and I am an English major, so I'm going to get some things wrong as well. I talked about The Wasteland today. My mind is expired. But,
Hey, Red.
Anyway, so, but she's into this old PETA thing, and I kill animals for sport, so let's leave that to the side. But she gives a pretty good performance. I think that maybe she's a little bit overrated. What she does is pretty cool, though. And although I think more than anything, it's Father Karras's movie. It's shoot, what's his name? I've got it over here. Jason Miller. It's his movie, I think, really. And I as much as I love the movie, I also think that the book is really good and an interesting perspective into William Peter Blatty's life as well, and his a lot of his opinions. If you all, by the way, don't have the Blu-ray of The Exorcist 3, get it just for William Peter Blatty's audio commentary, because you get a really good idea of what he was going through when he wrote The Exorcist, when he wrote and directed The Exorcist 3, a lot of his really interesting opinions on life and religion, faith in general, and also some stuff about, I think he talks a little bit about the Ninth Configuration, which I also mentioned before with Nate. He is, that again, another freaking underrated movie that's awesome. Not really a horror movie, but really cool. And regardless, that's my favorite horror movie, The Exorcist. So, there you go.
Great choice, my man.
Wow.
Yeah, that's Exorcist is an awesome movie. Definitely one of the greats of all time. But get into my number one pick. I went with Dawn of the Dead. It's I don't know if Gideon saw. I got the here. Wait, I don't know if you can really see. I'll take I'll take part of it. Like this, Dawn of the Dead.
Heck yeah,
socks.
man, that's awesome.
Bright rags, if you're interested.
That's where all my shirts come from.
Oh, dude, same. I
The whole
would
closet
be,
full.
I would be as naked as John Cena without fright rags. It. But
You can see me, boy.
you can see me anytime. I'm just a huge fan of Dawn of the Dead, man. Like everything about that movie, it's so grand. Like it has funny parts with pie fighting and having fun in the mall. It has dramatic parts with character development and really when Roger gets bit. I always felt that was the most heart-wrenching, most dreadful death in any horror movie because you know it's coming and you're like, you want to prevent it somehow. Like every time I watch the movie, I'm like, don't get bit. Don't get bit this time. Maybe it'll be different this time. It's always the same, unfortunately. He always gets bit and he always does suffer that cruel death. And his relationship with Peter, they're kind of yin and yang, the tall, big, strapping black dude, the skinny, white, 5 foot nothing guy. And they're just this awesome tag team. And then you have David Emge and Galen Ross and how they're kind of their relationship struggles and how she feels that they don't value her or her opinion because she's a woman. And then by the end of the movie, she's shooting rifles and flying helicopters to safety. You know, it's one of those movies where everybody becomes greater in the ending than where they start in the beginning. And I love that. That is great character, not just development, but character growth. And I think that's a very important thing in a horror movie where you don't see that very much. You see that with one character. You see that with the final girl. You know, you see that with Jamie Lee. You see that with Amy Steele. You see that with Adrian King. They grow from this weak nothing to this strong something. And I feel like really you're able to kind of grow with all these characters. The score, the Crayola crayon gore with, you know, Savini's effects and the blue zombies and the gonk and Jesus Christ, man. I could literally I have to make this movie permanent on my skin. Like I'm not a tattoo person, but I'm definitely going to get a Mr. Met tattoo someday because I'm a huge Met fan, one of the biggest in the whole world, and definitely going to get a Dawn of the Dead tattoo someday. It's my favorite movie, not just horror movie. It's my favorite movie of all time. I actually have it up in the corner. It's kind of being blocked out right now, but it's my all-time favorite. I love everything about it, and it's just the best. Mucho number one. That is a number one, best in the world. Dawn of the Dead.
Nice. I would agree. That's awesome movie. Just a really, really awesome movie. And it gets better every time I watch it. So.
Real quick though, I was wanting to run down my list. I was wanting to wait to get your guys' opinions out because I've already done like a 40-minute video of mine. But just to run down mine real quick, just tell you guys my favorites. Number 5 is The Fly. Number 4 is The Thing. Number 3 is The Shining. Number 2 is Halloween. And my all-time favorite is The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Now, if you guys want to hear my more in-depth thoughts, I mean, what I can say about the movie is that a lot of those really have great acting in them, great storytelling. But if you guys really want to hear my really in-depth thoughts, I did like a 40-minute video explaining it. So I don't want to do a lot of the repeats. So that's pretty much my list. Gideon, do you want to give your top 5 favorites real quick before I move on to the next list? I think Gideon's.
Oh, sorry.
I'm probably going to get off here soon, brothers. I'm getting a little tired.
I'm feeling the same way, but
We could make this a part 1 and do a part 2 later if you guys want to do that. It's up to you all. Was you wanting Gideon to do his real quick and then maybe we could just close it off?
Sure,
whatever.
Yeah, I'll do just titles that I really enjoyed. Pretty much my top 5 favorite horror films, pretty much. At number 5, I have Cannibal Holocaust. Really kind of warped my mind when I first saw it.
Love that movie.
I love it too, man.
I recommended it to you, did I not?
Oh, yeah. I went out and bought the DVD the day after.
Somehow, I actually really enjoy that movie, and I shouldn't, but I really do. I really do.
I love the music is just beautiful in it. For a movie called Cannibal Hall, it has some very beautiful music.
Oh, do you have the CD? Do you
Yes.
have? Yeah,
Yes.
I have it too. I'm gonna get it. Hold on.
I am hoping to actually like make a fan very much about it.
Wow. I mean, I love the movie. It's the subject matter that really
Yes.
me not like want to watch it all the time. But for the movie that it's for what it is a masterpiece of what it does. I can say
I mean, if people think you murdered your own or a film like that, then you did something good.
absolutely. Very convincing negative effects in that movie. Granted, I don't agree with what they did with the animals. Like that stuff was all.
Yeah, that was kind of too far.
But I do like what the movie went with, how it went with like the dark side of humanity and how dark humans can be. Like that was like nailed in that movie. So I can say that I love Cannibal Holocaust. I just don't watch it a lot because it's a very hard movie to watch. But I could see why you guys really love it. It's a phenomenal movie.
Yeah, like it was insane.
Cool
Some-
CD cover, man.
Listen to this in the car. I actually never have, but it would be really funny to do
Actually, I love that soundtrack. It's really well done. I love it.
There was a time where I was driving around in my car listening to the soundtrack from Pieces. That was a really weird experience.
Oh yeah,
Still haven't seen that movie. Dang,
it is great.
Pieces you can miss for a few years, and then like once you're kind of matured as a horror fan, and you realize that not everything has to be great, and some things are okay being like, oh, this is really well shot, but man, everything else in here sucks. That's when you go for Pieces, because that's exactly what you got there. So,
Yeah, it's a great film.
but what's your number 4, Gideon?
My fourth favorite horror movie would have to be Terror Vision. I love that thing to death.
Freaking swingers dancing around and getting attacked by blob monsters and crap. Beautiful.
Yeah, like the first time I ever saw Terror Vision is when I was around. My parents would go to bed at around 12 a.m. in the morning, and they left little Gideon up with the TV remote, and I would watch some. So I saw this giant blob monster, and I was like, "Oh, what is this? This is like an old B movie." And I was like, "Oh crap! He just saved their parents! Oh my god!" And I was like, "Oh my god! I love this! A monster that actually wins."
Yeah, and it cracks me up that like he's just like the alien's pet. It's all he is.
Oh god, yeah, that was very. I had that really well story wise, but they killed their only way of helping.
Yeah.
I still haven't seen that movie though. I've heard of it. Dang, I need to catch up with y'all.
Scream Factory's got a good Blu-ray of it. It's a double feature, Terror Vision and the Video Dead. I haven't seen the Video Dead because I don't have this Blu-ray, but Terror Vision's worth a watch just like for the pure 80s cheese that it is. It's also got some pretty effective special effects, I think. They're gonzo kind of special effects, but they're pretty good.
Nice. Check it out. Gideon, yours on number 3, right?
Yeah, okay. My third favorite horror, and this is like one of my all-time favorites, Charles Band's Puppet Master.
Yes, I love that movie. I love all the Puppet Master movies and up to part 6.
Same.
Then you get to the ones they start using
I
stock.
hate the legacy.
Yeah, like freaking stock footage to movie much.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, Charles Band is a pretty shady dude already. I've seen some of his stuff. I guess I kind of make films like him use footage.
It's
He's
just
shady,
like
but rich as heck.
I just don't get like why they started doing that, because you're already making these movies that don't cost that much, and you're profiting a lot from these movies, and yet now you're going to be moving to the cheaper option and using stock footage. I'm like, what the freak is the point? Because it's already low, but it's already not a big budget, so like you don't have to use stock footage. He's never got.
Yeah, I mean, like they did some very great like for the time. Pretty much, I enjoyed the first Puppet Master, but my favorite Puppet Master would have to be the second one because that just added in a lot more character, gave it a better kind of form of what we see these puppets do. Like you literally see Torch set a obese woman on fire.
Yeah. It was I enjoy all of them up to like part 6. Like when you get to 4 and 5, it's like the puppets become the good guys, and I actually like that. That was actually a really good storyline.
Yeah.
Man, you guys are like Puppet Master, like I am with Children of the Corn. My gosh.
We must believe us who stock the fields.
I enjoy the way Gideon explains things.
Yeah.
This obese one was on fire, man.
Yo, dude, I mean, like, I like these horror films and crap. I mean, well, yeah, I guess.
You're the man, Gideon.
What's your number 2, brother?
It would have to be Maniac.
Ooh.
Awesome.
Because I've recently got my hands on this version of this film, and I fell in love with it. The story, everything great about it, including the amazing effects by Tom Savini. Sculpting parts of scalping women's skulls.
You like my poster, Gideon?
Oh yeah, I got me one right hand on my wall.
Me
over
too.
here.
I love this poster.
Shockingly, I haven't seen Maniac, but I did see the remake, and I love the remake. So I have to see.
Yeah, it had a pretty good. I'm gonna put that out there.
I love the remake. I thought it was great. I thought it was great how they shot it, kind of like Hardcore Henry style, where it's all.
Oh yeah, first person.
Yeah. I didn't see the first one yet though, but it has a scene that I watched where Tom Savini gets his head blown off, which was freaking great.
Oh yeah. Like the funny about that, if you guys don't mind me telling you, Tom Savini actually was the one who shot himself in the head in the movie. And they did this like guerrilla film, allowed to like film in the location, so they had to do this so quick before the cops came. Like he had to shot himself in the head and say, like, we gotta get out of here.
So, what was your number 1 favorite, man?
That is very hard. But I'll probably have to go with It 2017.
Wow.
What a choice.
You know, there are people who like to crap all over that movie, including Rambo Raff for life. And I like Rambo Raff. He seems like a nice guy. All his opinions are crap, and that's one of them. I really liked It from 2017. I wouldn't call it my favorite, but I think it's,
Yeah.
far
I
and
thought
away
it was
the
such
best.
a like creatively different movie. Like it's I was approaching it negatively at first until I started seeing footage of it in the trailers, and I was like, okay, could be. I was approaching it as a remake standpoint, and people were actually correcting me and saying, no, this is a readaptation. So let's approach it as a readaptation, not a remake. So I was like, okay. So that kind of fixed my attitude going into the movie. I thought it was like a fantastic remake.
Hiya, Nate.
Don't, you're scared. Yours with you.
You want to float down here? I got tons of horror movies.
Wait, so which one was the better Pennywise, though? Do you think Tim Curry was better or Bill Skarsgård?
Hard because they both gave great performances. Knew it though. He seemed like something that Stephen King was originally trying to get into the original book, because I've read the original It book and one part that was cut out, but
Yeah.
Shit. I know what you're talking about.
Oh yeah. Well, like I was saying though, was they just dealt with this, and I thought they weren't going to show the Georgie get his arm ripped off. I was like, they're going to just cut the black, and they're just going to put like he was dead or something. But no, arm off. We were me and a couple of my mates were at the theater premiere night when they first showed it. We had to sit through the '90s TV series, but we screamed our heads off when his arm got ripped off. We were like,
It was shocking.
Green.
I mean, it was the thing about the remake though that I thought was nailed was like how they made the It creature really, and like you said, close to what the adaptation had, where it would play around with your fears. And the original movie did that too, but the new one kind of explored that a little bit more. So I like that aspect of it too. So, I definitely could say that film-wise, like since the original, the TV miniseries, I like the new one better only because I think it's a higher quality like film. But you can't really say that because the original one wasn't a film. It
was
feels
a
like
TV series.
when you watch it, it feels like a movie. But I just thought that the remake had a higher quality to it, and I thought that it had a really creepy, Pennywise, and it had good characters. You could tell they took inspiration from Stranger Things a little bit, especially if they have a cast member in there from Stranger Things. But it is what it is. It's a really well made remake, so I can definitely see why you put that on your list. It's a good choice, by
The
the way.
thing though, like I would like to add in though, I haven't had that much fun at the movies since seeing a re-showing of the Goonies or the Monster Squad, because it felt just like it felt like a group of kids in the '80s encounter some sort of devil worshipping demon or something, and they have to stop it with either fucking kicking it in the nuts, like garlic pizza, to kill it. It gives it that wholesome fun, but not in a wholesome universe. Like it's just so dark. I started laughing my ass off when they were playing music by The Cure, and they played one of my favorite songs from The Cure in that movie, and I was like, "Holy crap!"
So, John, you've been relatively quiet. What do you think about the It remake?
I liked it. I think it's a good movie. I'm much more of a Curry over Skarsgård kind of guy.
Okay.
I agree Skarsgård does do a good job. But I feel like some of the dialogue in the new It was just like, whew. I mean, there was a scene early in the movie where he says something like, "Hey Jimmy, you gonna go home to tickle the pickle?" And like, when I heard that, and like people laughed, like just like that, like people were I was like, is that just really said? Like, do people think that kids of any era spoke like that? Like, if it could be true, but Jesus Christ, I'm glad I never heard kids talk like that in my high school. But I don't know, like I feel it's a good movie. Listen, I'm shocked to see how much money it made. Like, shocked. Forever will be shocked.
Same, dude.
Of all the things to come along horror wise and make the amount of money that movie made, I would have never thought that. I would have never thought that new Jumanji movie would have made almost $1 billion.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the craziest part.
Yeah, who would have thought The Rock and Jack Black and Kevin Hart and remaking a Robin Williams film would be the success that like, it's strange. And who would have thought that a remake or a re-envisioning of the miniseries with Tim Curry would have been the big heart? It's very strange that both those movies were such big hits. I'll say this: I think it's a good movie. I don't think it's anything better than a good movie. I just think it's like it's there. I don't know if I'll ever really go back and I had a good time, but I wasn't like, there were people throwing babies in the air. I was like, I'm gonna cradle my baby personally.
Here, eat my children, evil clown.
Yeah, it certainly seemed to strike a chord, and I love whenever some horror movie does that, whether I like it or not. I like when the community is it's going. Like, I hate when it's stale and nobody's talking about it. That's what really depresses me sometimes with the genre. But that movie didn't.
Yeah.
That movie was the opposite. People reacted, and that's important. Whether I have my blessing with it or not, it's the reaction that I like.
Yeah, and we had 2 of those last year because everybody was talking about Get Out, then everybody was talking about It, and I don't know if either one of those were the best horror movie of 2017, but both of them, kind of brought up some stuff as far as like the public's concerned. That I thought that was really interesting. I mean, I haven't even seen Get Out yet. I mean, I really should have.
Oh, it's
before
amazing.
the Oscars, but I do want to see it because I hear like a big part of it is just like how evil white liberals are. But whatever. But yeah, I'm interested in seeing that movie, and I'm really interested in the fact that they're just gonna that we had like a couple of things that really struck a chord with people last year, and I think that kind of sets a tone for what we might be getting in 2018. So far, the year started off pretty well as far as horror is concerned. So, but yeah, good picks, Gideon.
Thanks, Steve. I mean, there's just so much horror we can hope for in the future. Like, I'm hoping that, there's still more fresh ideas, but I would like to see endings.
A what?
Like a couple more, like, really good remakes.
Oh.
I don't know about you, man, but I want to see a remake of Mars Attacks.
I mean, I think everybody wants a remake of that. It's debatable because it's like horror and remakes is kind of like half and half. There's like the good ones and there's the crappy ones. So we got like Dawn of the Dead. You got like some other great ones that like The Thing is technically speaking, The Thing is a remake, but I never really thought of that. And for some reason, John Carpenter was denied a sequel, but yet they greenlit a prequel, which seemed like a remake as well, but it's not. Never got that. But like, it's either good remakes or bad remakes. If they're bad, they're horrible. If they're good, then they're usually pretty good. So it's a big risk.
Yeah.
But anyways, guys, it's been fun. Thanks, guys, for joining the stream. It's been a blast. I was kind of all over the place in this stream. It was kind of hard to plan all this out, but we went along with it, and we kept on chucking along. We got through our list, and it was all fun and great. And just thank you guys so much for joining. Steve, John, Gideon, you guys are so awesome. You guys gave some great picks, and thanks for being on the stream.
Thank you.
Thank you. Very good.
Anytime.
We got to remember that we were sponsored today by Feisty Cherry Diet Coke. When you need your fix for Coke, but you're on a diet, get your Feisty Cherry.
Heck yeah, and also Fruit Punch Soda from Big K. Just picked it out over here. But
there's cooking.
See you guys later. Thanks for watching the stream, and a little bit of a preview for next parts stream. We're going to be having top 5 on that one. We're going to be having top 5 favorite black and white horror films from both the silent film era and the sound film era. And then the final one will be the top 5 worst horror films of all time. I'm going to give you guys a little preview of mine. It's got a hot dog ghost story in it. So we'll see you guys then. Thanks for watching the stream. Explorer of Horror out, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out, y'all.
Rock on.